So welcome back, Facebook family. So great to have you back this evening with Dr. Wendy Askew and myself. We missed you guys last week. We've gone to a kind of a mild schedule for the next 3 months for the holidays. So we're going to just twice a month from now through December. So we'll be seeing you today and, of course, 2 weeks from now, and then so on and so forth. But even so, this is already episode 29. I can't believe it. That's
exciting.
Awesome. Time has just kind of flown by.
It sure has. Can you believe it's already the holidays?
Oh, I know.
It's usually super exciting.
This is my Christmas time because
I know.
Halloween is my Christmas. I love Halloween.
Exciting. Your decorations look so much
I
fun.
sent you some videos of what I've been putting
awesome.
up.
Oh my God.
I have so many animatronics, and I gather more and more every single year.
I love it.
And my wife was like, "Why do you buy these things? It's just because it's
they bring me
fun."
joy. Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
It makes me happy.
It makes me, it makes me laugh, seeing all the kids scared and seeing her scared and everyone.
And your dog looked kind of scared in that one video.
Gosh.
So cute.
It was so awesome. So this new one I bought this year actually it's called Soul Sucker.
Okay.
So it has like a little fan where it can blow the fog machine
awesome.
out of the little girl's mouth into the Soul Sucker, and it has a light. So it pulls this little girl up.
Yes.
And it's telling him it's taking her soul, and so when the fog going off, those two lights lighting up, it looks like he's really sucking her soul out.
Like a Dementor. I love it.
It's amazing.
That
Absolutely
is so
amazing.
Cool.
I'll put up when we get to our next show. I'll put
I love
something
Halloween.
up for
I love
for
Halloween. We don't get as crazy as the Longs get, but I love Halloween. So I'm excited too. Who knows what it's going to be like on Halloween itself, but. Yeah, we still need to decorate and celebrate and enjoy as much as we can.
I know. Hopefully, we're gonna be able to do some trick or treating. I know we got this thing from our homeowners the other day saying that they'd like us to tie up candy bags and put them in the trees and the bushes so kids can just kind of come by and pull them off the tree or the bush.
Spray them with Lysol before.
I guess. I'm not sure how that's supposed to work.
Okay.
But,
sure.
I guess so.
Whatever.
I guess so.
Hopefully your trees are low and
I don't have any trees that are really that low, so it'd have to be, kind of some of the bushes around there. Maybe it's like Easter, kind of just like a hiding, hide the eggs or
whatever. Exactly. Or put like some hand sanitizer with every candy
That's
or
a
something.
great idea. We should give away hand sanitizer.
What a horrible Halloween if you're gonna get hand sanitizer instead of candies, but we'll take it. Yeah.
We're gonna give you CBD hand sanitizer with every candy bar that you get.
That's a valuable gift.
That is.
When people used to talk about giving out edibles to children and there was a big fear, like if y'all are giving away edibles in your neighborhood, let us know so we can come trick or treating at y'all's neighborhood.
We're definitely coming to your neighborhood.
Yeah, I'm not wasting my edibles on the kids, but whatever. Yeah.
So again, episode 29. One of the things we always love is when you like, comment, and share. We've been meeting a whole lot of people at the Bernie Market Days, Huebner Farmers Market. We were actually out in Bandera this past weekend. And it was great because there were so many consumers there had a whole lot of questions.
Great.
It's a retirement community there that we went to. And it's funny because some of them came by, and as they're walking by, they're like, ooh, CBD. Oh my God, are y'all drug addicts?
Stop. I know.
But seriously, we get that just like you always do.
Yep.
It's just a lack of education. So spending 10, 15 minutes with every single consumer as they came by, letting them try our products.
I love it. And you're such an extrovert. You just thrive on it.
Yeah.
So that's great.
It was fun.
Good for you.
So we educated a good probably 20, 25 people.
Good for you.
That was awesome.
So it sounds like a good crowd. Nice.
It was a really
out
good
in
crowd.
Bandera.
Yeah.
Fun.
And of course, Bandera I love. It's a really neat community.
Yeah.
Kind of like
I like
Bernie
it
is.
small
Bernie's the
towns.
same thing.
Yep.
It's just a nice small knit community.
Yeah, nice, friendly people.
Yes. Yes.
Like small town America.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
So again, like, comment, share, guys. Ask any questions you have. We have Dr. Wendy here on the show.
Yeah.
As our medical director. Wendy is amazing at answering just about anything and everything you can imagine.
I like to talk also. Yeah.
But it's awesome because there's so many times even that I think of something, I'm like, and I'll call Wendy and I'll ask her these questions just to bounce something off of another healthcare professional is just awesome. So anything that you have as a consumer, please make sure that there's no dumb questions that you're going to have, guys.
Only the ones not asked. Yeah.
If you have anything that you really want to know about CBD, what it can do for your health, different health conditions, we identified something this past week with my wife. My wife had a minor surgical procedure. We won't go into any detail or anything else because she'll kill me. But essentially, she had a minor surgical procedure. She actually had an open wound, So, and what we did is the first day, the doctor actually said, "Well, let's give her some pain pills."
Yep.
And she's like, "No, I'm not going to do any pain pills. I'm going to do my CBD," which she did. And then he says, "Well, let me give you some lidocaine jelly, to apply onto the open wound.
Sure.
So it'll just kind of keep the wound, from hurting so bad." And it worked probably for about 15, 20 minutes at work intermittently. So on the third day, she's like, the hell with this. I'm just going to put our own, 3,500 milligram arnica cream that we created, and she put that on there, and it was phenomenal.
Yeah, I love this.
So, yeah.
And I'm so impressed because obviously this is a new method or treatment that we're using it for surgical pain and with a wound that's healing, and it has no negative impact on the wound healing itself.
Correct.
Which the lidocaine can sometimes delay wound healing. And it did a great job because of the arnica for the anti-inflammatory properties, the CBD for the decreased inflammation and for the pain control. So it just feels really good to be able to kind of help heal with something natural and with minimal, if any at all, risks or side effects.
And the funny thing about it is when, especially like the first 2 nights post-surgical, I had to get up in the middle of the night and kind of put on the lidocaine jelly on her multiple times throughout the night because she was in so much pain.
It wears off.
So the first night that we did the arnica and the 3,500 milligrams of CBD, she slept through the whole night.
God, amazing.
Whole night.
Yeah, it's
I didn't have to get up with her. I didn't have to give her any additional doses or anything else. And she was just doing that and her 5,000 milligram tincture.
See, and you know what's
phenomenal.
Fun about it is that like we know that this works, we believe in it, but then like every time you discover something new and then you realize that it can help, it's kind of exciting.
It is.
I think it is.
It really is. And again, we're just touching the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
For us. I really wish I was a smarter person who could be a chemist to really understand the biophysiology of how these cannabinoids really do work in the human body.
Yeah.
Because can you imagine identifying that new opportunity with what CBD is going to be doing in the human body itself?
You are. I think you are 100% right. Except for the fact that I don't think you could get much smarter than you with everything you've done in your life. It's just so impressive. But like as I was researching for our topics tonight, I've got dozens of articles talking about some of the conditions that are most accepted for the use of cannabis medicines, and like. Oh my God! And I love this part, like the receptors and the tau protein formulations and the enzymes that are impacted, and how the CBD for certain conditions doesn't even work on CB1, CB2 receptors, completely unrelated pathways for modulating the responses in the disease processes. And so I just love it because it is so fascinating. So you're absolutely right. We are at the very tip of the iceberg with respect to understanding what's going on. And so I think that the world is the oyster, and like we touched on it last episode, where we said like this is why it's a threat to certain industries who are in this, because I think they know that this is probably the holy grail of medicinal therapeutics, and they don't want to lose that many repeat customers.
But if we could keep it at again, one of the things that Big Pharma, I've been working in Big Pharma for 20 plus years. One of the things Big Pharma does is they find something, their potential holy grail, and they convert it into what they can control. And unfortunately, I really hope that that's not the case with this CBD product, because the more people that can really gain access to this and continue to have it affordable, the more people that are really going to be healed by this.
Right.
To change Western medicine, I know we don't want to do that, but to change medicine in general and how we can start being more proactive as opposed to reactive to healthcare. That is really where we're going to start making an impact in us.
Preventative, which we have got to do, because one of the topics one of the conditions we're going to talk about tonight is very scary. I think for everybody it's terrifying, especially people of a certain age, present company specifically, dementias and Alzheimer's disease. Like, it terrifies people who've seen their family members experience that and what they go through and what you lose when you have a family member impacted with that, and the estimates of what the prevalence of Alzheimer's is going to be in the very near future. And if we cannot figure out a good way to prevent it or reverse it, the impact on society is going to be astronomical.
Oh my gosh, absolutely.
And the science behind how these products might be really impactful and preventative and therapeutic, and even some studies reversing of the plaquing, is just so exciting for science geeks like you and me. So
absolutely,
it is exciting.
So I want to say hi to, we've got a number of people on tonight. So Andrew and Lucy, thanks for joining us as always. Brian, Caesar, Don. Thanks, Sean is joining us.
My cousin's tuned in.
And also, Sean has a question.
Thanks,
so it says, I have trouble staying asleep after about 5 hours. Would CBD help? Oh, would it ever?
Yes.
It would definitely help. So that's one of the things I also suffer from is ever since college, I've always suffered from severe insomnia. So I've been taking Benadryl, and this is probably not good. I probably shouldn't say this, but I've been taking Benadryl now for probably almost 30 years.
Wow.
Ever since I got out of college, just to sleep, because I've just never been an individual who can actually sleep.
Yeah.
And I can just get a whole, full, restful sleep. So 3-4 hours, I was done.
Oh,
that's
God,
a good night
that's
for
horrible.
me.
That's a horrible night.
I know,
Yeah.
and that's what so many people tell me,
Yes.
and I didn't really. I was like, yeah, I can live this way. This is the way I've been living.
You function that way.
I function very well that way. But then when I started to use CBD and started to sleep a full 8 hours, like, wow, this is what everyone is. This is what y'all been talking about. This is nice.
Oh, it's
getting restful sleep. So taking CBD at nighttime for me, because I take your melatonin and CBD capsules.
I love them.
And I do sleep a full 8 hours.
That's amazing.
And it is. It's so.
So big yes.
That was a
to that one.
Sean, yes. That is an absolute yes.
That was an
That'll
easy
definitely
yes.
keep you there. So I didn't mean to go into great detail about that, but
No, but
I'm
he's
so
right.
excited about what it does for me.
Because it affects insomnia, affects so many people. I think the pandemic, especially, everybody's so anxious and so stressed out that their brains are just in, active problem-solving mode and not in rest and repair mode. The brain's always active, but it's doing different things. And when we're really stressed or just life circumstances, it can get dysregulated. And you, I think, were actually kind of lucky, because I needed Benadryl to sleep for years, and then eventually it stopped working, and I could take 3 or 4 Benadryls and not get any rest at all. So I had to move on to the next thing, and then then I'm throwing in some Ambien 1 or 2 nights a week because I don't want to take it all the time, or maybe a Xanax once or twice a week. It's just so you can break up those days of 4 hours awake for 2 hours and then another hour of sleep with a couple of nights of contiguous sleep. But you don't get really good restful sleep with the hypnotic drugs, in contrast to the CBD melatonin preparation, where you do get into the stage 3, stage 4 sleep, where rest and repair work and healing is going on in your body.
Absolutely. So Holly, thanks for joining us as well. Holly asked about dementia. And it's funny that you say dementia, because actually it's one of our topics for tonight. So we are definitely going to talk about dementia this evening. But I'm going to go over a few more things before we get to that point, and I'll let Dr. Wendy kind of take over and start educating us on some really, really great clinical facts and research that she's identified for us tonight. So again, like, comment, share as you are, because we are going to be giving away this evening a 500 milligram arnica cream. It won't be this high dose like I gave my wife this past weekend, but it will be a 500 milligram dose, which is still a really good dose. So we've used it for a number of things. It works fantastic for sunburns too.
I love it. Oh, nice.
I was out at the ranch and I got a real bad sunburn, so I put it on my ears and my neck and everything else. Went to bed, no pain, no sunburn pain,
awesome.
And I didn't peel.
Fantastic.
So I keep finding
you didn't
something
tell me
new.
about that last week when my nose burned.
I'm so sorry.
Ridiculous. No, I'm just kidding.
But I keep finding all these new things. So it's just awesome. Absolutely awesome.
For the insect bites and the rashes and things.
Yes. That's fantastic. So let's kind of move on to our next thing that we have. I think you were telling me about it this week, that you actually had somebody who was interested in starting to sell our products for themselves.
Yes.
So one of the things that we've moved in our website is we actually used to have a tab there that allowed affiliates to kind of come in and create your own web pages and start selling our products on your own Facebook, your Instagram, your TikTok accounts, whatever you have, because we have a lot of people who have huge followings.
Yep.
We had somebody on our show recently who's got 250,000 viewers or 250,000 followers.
Wow,
which is phenomenal.
That's impressive.
The night he was on our show,
yes,
our show went through the roof.
It sure did. That was Christopher, right?
Yeah, Christopher. So I think we had like 5,800 viewers that night.
He's awesome, and now he's an ambassador for Express and modeling for them. It's so super exciting.
That's fantastic. But so again, we actually have a new tab. We changed it from that aspect, and now it's called a retail tab. So essentially what you do is click on that tab, fill out the application, create a password for yourself, and our IT director actually will give you a call and help you set up a new web page just for yourself.
Which is so nice.
So yeah,
some of us aren't that IT savvy. I know he's fabulous.
Yeah, so he set up one for Dr. Wendy as well, so she can actually sell CBD on her own web page.
Yeah.
And all those orders still come to Empirical. We drop the products out to your consumers or anyone that you sell to, and you would still receive a 20% commission off of anything you sell on your webpage. So for those individuals who are stuck at home, taking care of the kids, they only have an hour here and there in between the kids' classes, or downtime with a young one, maybe they're down for their nap, and you want to start going onto your Instagram or some of your other accounts and start selling some products to make some extra cash.
Absolutely, help people out, make a little side money. It's a great opportunity.
Yeah, I was looking at what we did last quarter, and I paid out $10,000 in commissions last quarter.
Nice, good for
them.
So
I was super excited. So there's opportunities for you as not only a consumer, but also to support the CBD push that we're making here, because we want to educate people, taking that time to educate you, and then you going out and continuing to educate your friends, your family, your coworkers about what CBD can do for them as well. Continue, because that's really what's going to change the industry here is education.
Yes.
So we want to educate you and allow you to become the educator and go out and sell this product for yourself as well. So if you're interested, again, the new tab is there. It says Retail tab. Feel free to click on it. It's empiricalsa.com. Again, empiricalsa.com. Click on the Retail tab, fill out the information, and our IT director will actually be in contact with you. His name is David. So again,
he's wonderful.
Appreciate that.
Super helpful. Brilliant. Yeah.
And Holly, yes, I got your message. We'll definitely need to talk. So let's get started. Dr. Wendy actually has some fantastic things to share tonight. So you want to start off with autism?
Sure, absolutely.
I've got a couple of nephews who actually suffer, unfortunately, with autism. And they actually do take our gummies. They take the 1,500 milligram gummies.
The stronger ones.
Yes. I have one who's 18 and the other one who's 16 now. And they actually they're not high. One of them's high functioning, the other one not so much.
Right.
But they actually really have done well in them.
Yeah.
When you stop and you look at them when they were younger, how really aggressive they were.
Yes.
But and looking at them now, actually, as they're continuing to use the CBD, just a complete night and day.
Which is so impactful, because the whole family is obviously impacted when you have a person with autism in your family. They're suffering, and then it has such a tremendous, a controlling effect over your entire life. And so we wanted to start out with autism, and tonight touch on some of the neurological disorders, the chronic neurological disorders that have increased exponentially in society over the past about 50 years. There's a ton of reasons and suspected contributing factors to that. But autism is at epidemic levels right now. So just looking back 20 years ago, the incidence of autism was estimated, and that's when they first started tracking how common it was, about 1 in 150 children. Now, 20 years later, it is 1 in 54, right? And so that's including the full range of the spectrum, where there can be very high functioning people with autism, and then there can be profoundly affected patients who engage in the three core behaviors, right? They lack the ability to communicate and interact with others. They have social interaction limitations. They have limited interests, like kind of fixations on certain things that they'll do, and then really not other interests. Maybe it's playing with their iPads or playing with certain toys, or like twisting behaviors or just repetitive behaviors. And then they've got the associated behaviors, where they describe them as irritability, challenging behaviors, and self-harm. And then there's a lot of theories, right? If patients are trapped inside their body and you can't communicate to anybody, because they tend to have a lot of GI problems and they tend to suffer from headaches, tons of limitations, and they can't express to you what they're feeling, then they become violent, and they often turn that violence inward, and there are minimal, really no effective FDA-approved treatments for autism, because we still don't even understand why it happens or who gets affected. But what CBD can do, and THC also, I know our focus here CBD, but I always just want to give a big shout out to cannabis medicine, because we are also very involved in expanding the legislature. And I know families personally who are members of organizations and who founded organizations to try to increase access, because what cannabis medicine can do for those people when they are in a fit, banging their head against a wall or scratching their skin off, one vaporized hit or one CBD oil dropper full within minutes can literally calm them down. You can just watch the transformation. You can watch them become more calm and peaceful. But really interesting, because there's not a tremendous amount of research, and of all the studies that I found, there were 10 that met inclusion criteria for a big review that looked at persons with autism spectrum disorders. One was out of the United States, and it was the most limited. Most were out of Israel and Canada and the other countries that have got more expanded cannabis laws, and So then it kind of went through all of them, and they looked at children, between the ages of 6 and 22, so not quite so much children anymore. But what every single one of the study found was improvement in findings, what they call the global impression scale, the caregiver global impression scale. And they would report improvement in problem behaviors like self-harm and injury, improvement in the stress of the parents, so they did consider the whole family unit. And most of these studies were looking at predominantly CBD products. So ratios of 20 to 1, some studies looked at a little bit higher, 75 to 1, but 20 to 1 seemed to be kind of a sweet spot, and I didn't calculate like what a normal tincture might have but to get to close to this 20 to 1 ratio that really showed calming influence, and some of the studies noted improvements in their verbalization and their ability to communicate. They're not going to start, reciting the Constitution or anything, but they are able to verbalize words and to communicate with their families. They will begin to make eye contact. And if you're the mother of a child and your child can't even look at you, to have that child be able to make eye contact or stand for you to give them a hug or be less combative when you're trying to feed them, these are life-changing effects. And the problem is that the medications that are typically used to treat them are antipsychotics like Risperdal and these medications, which, aside from all of the really bad side effects, tend to almost 100% accompanied by significant weight gain. And so they talked about how you might take a 100-pound young person with autism spectrum disorder and violent behavior, and by giving them their Haldol or their Risperdal, turn them into a 250-pound person, and that's much more difficult to control in the families when you see them talking about needing to put their children in restraints at home.
And they also become vegetables, because I've dosed these kids with CBD also.
Good.
So one of the things I did some in-home nursing for a time. Used to have a home health agency.
Yeah.
And essentially what we would do is we had one patient, we dosed him like 84 to 86 milligrams of CBD. And this one child,
which is a really reasonable dose.
It really is. 14-year-old, but he was so combative. We had a helmet that we put on him because he'd bang his head against the wall, the floor, whatever he can find to have that constant banging. And then if it wasn't that, then he was biting.
Yes.
And he was always biting.
They'll bite themselves or they'll bite their
themselves
family.
Or anyone who would try to touch them. And then if it wasn't that, then it was always a slapping. So we had these three constant things. So and he of course he couldn't eat because he just couldn't swallow.
Yeah.
So he had a G tube. So we'd put the 86 milligrams of the CBD into the G tube.
Wow.
And within probably less than 10 minutes, 15 minutes,
that makes sense.
just completely opposite.
Calm
and
down.
And you can tell him as he's starting to come down off of that. As he's starting to feel the effects of it, he goes from banging his head to like, okay, stopping to take a second.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden he's doing this to you, like, okay, now he's trying to say something.
Right.
He can't say it, but
He's
there's a difference now because now he's communicating.
Yes.
That's his way of communicating. Because before, don't touch me, don't come around me, just leave me the hell alone. To all of a sudden him putting his hand
Showing
on
some
you
warmth
was just,
and
oh my
connection.
gosh, completely different for him.
Oh my God, I can't even imagine what the parents must have.
Oh, I know these parents, and these poor parents that I've seen hundreds of them, thousands of them that have gone through these type of things, and to see what it does to these families,
That's awesome.
It's just absolutely amazing to see what it can do for them.
Yeah, I mean, just to watch that kind of transformation, and you can see it with the other conditions that we're gonna talk about too. So there's not what doctors want, these randomized controlled trials, which we're not going to be able to do with cannabis medicine just by virtue of its nature, and you're not going to get as good of an effect with isolated components. But that is life-changing, and when you talk to the parents, I mean, these people are so frazzled. This is their life 24/7. It's not like normal kids who drive you crazy and you can leave them with a babysitter or go away and do things. These children require 24/7 continuous round-the-clock surveillance and supervision and caretakers. And part of the really big problem with this is that with rates of 1 in 54, what's even happening now is that these children are turning into adults, and when their parents are too old to care for them, there's not a system in place. There's no group housing. There's no social programs to take care of these children that might be 30, 40 years old, but still are going to be alive another 40 years with no one who's willing to dedicate their life to taking care of them. So we have got to be more open to expanded treatments, to investigational or other therapies that show promise and are safe for these children that are becoming adults, because what we have to offer them is not going to be adequate, and they're aging out, and if their parents die, good luck finding an aunt or an uncle or somebody who's going to assume that level of responsibility. So I thought those studies were so exciting, and across the board, they all showed improvements, and they had minimal side effects. Like sometimes they'd report side effects like, I don't know, maybe nausea, and I don't know how you quantify that in the children, but I think the caregivers kind of gave some feedback. But when you look at the side effects that were experienced or reported in all of the 10 studies, they said they had, in one of the patients who was receiving a little bit higher concentration of THC, which we know about, they had some hallucinations and what they thought was more of a closer to a psychotic episode that resolved with removing the medication and once it metabolized out. But then that was one patient, one instance, and then the rest were overwhelmingly improvements in all of the behaviors, anxiety, in the repetitive behaviors, in their sleep, and in their self-harm, and in the quality of life for their caregivers and their family. So very
That's great.
safe.
That's really, really good
very
stuff.
Exciting.
One of the things we've also been selling a lot of, or tinctures, of course, we sell quite a few of, but we've been selling to a lot of patients now that actually are Alzheimer's as well as dementia.
Yeah.
In fact, I have some friends and family, and my mother.
Yeah, we all have family members.
She's the one that I think she's really going to have dementia down the road, because she really has a hard time. Even now, she's still fairly young, but even now she's still having there's so many things that are really forgetful.
Her memory, right?
And my grandmother, unfortunately, she had Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
She had dementia as well.
Right.
And then so did my grandfather towards the end as well. So she's got a double whammy from both her parents.
Right.
So it's almost a given that she's going to end up having it.
It's awful. She probably carries one of the genetic mutations, those ApoE4 alleles, and if you carry 2 of those, your likelihood of getting Alzheimer's dementia is like extremely high in that earlier onsets of age. So there's testing that can be done for that. And there's also new markers that can be tested for in younger children. I just want to put that out there for parents, right? Autism often doesn't get diagnosed until they're a little bit older, but if you can diagnose them when they're young, under 2 years of age, there's amazing behavioral therapies that can be implemented that can completely change the trajectory of those children's lives, and they can go on to be completely self-sufficient and sustaining. But most children can't even get referred to the developmental genetics pediatrics folks until they're 5-6 years of age. But there are tests, the Clarify Autism Spectrum Disorder Test, which is a microRNA fragment, and there's markers coming out for the dementias to help be able to diagnose them 10 years even before the onset of symptoms. So hopefully these early diagnostic things will identify people at risk, and then let those of us who are at risk start using modalities, exercise, healthier diet, CBD, to try and do what we can in the absence of, scientific white papers showing it, the things that are safe and that show all the mechanisms to help improve and decrease your risk. And so that's a great, let's switch and segue into the dementias and Alzheimer's disease specifically. And this is fascinating, right? Again, because most of the data looking at the dementias and Alzheimer's, the most common dementia affecting us, are looking at preclinical work. So science work, laboratory work, and then animal studies. And we're not rats, we understand that, but that's the process that all the pharmaceutical agents go through. So it is important and logical to begin with the animal studies, look at the mechanism of how they work, and then move on to the clinical trials involving humans, people. And so right now, this is another terrifying statistic, right? 5.8 million Americans live with Alzheimer's disease, 33 million affected worldwide. 1 in 3 senior citizens dies with Alzheimer's disease or another form of dementia in their body. And they're estimating by 2050 that 115 million people are expected to have Alzheimer's disease, maybe 50% of the population will be affected, and they're talking about costs of $1 trillion annually to care for people with Alzheimer's, from 24-hour care to nursing to medications to all the complications that their health experience when you have a dementia. And so, and it doesn't usually get diagnosed until later on, most people. But looking again at cannabis and the bench work and then the animal models of these diseases, we know that it's caused by the formation of abnormal protein accumulation in the neurons, amyloid beta protein, and then neurofibrillary tangles made of something called tau hyperphosphorylated proteins. That it's like glue, right? These proteins build up on the neurons and prevent them from communicating with each other, and they affect the areas involved with memory. You keep your long remote memories, and then you initially start to lose your newer memories. It disrupts your sleep. It causes a lot of anxiety. It causes a lot of rigidity. They can't walk. They get very agitated. They'll often become mean. And CBD actually has shown studies in rats where it decreases the activation of all these immune cells in the brain. And inflammation is at the core of all the health diseases. We're learning that now. It's all about inflammation. And CBD has been patented by the Department of Health and Human Services since 1998 for its known antioxidant and brain protecting properties. So anti-inflammatory properties that are stronger than about anything else available. And anti-inflammatories have even been, like non-steroidals, have been looked at as a possible mechanism to decrease the development of Alzheimer's, but you can't use them regularly because you'll get GI problems and ulcers and whatnot. So in animal studies, they actually showed they would induce an Alzheimer's-like dementia syndrome in the mice. Then they would give them CBD, and they do these washouts and crossover studies, and they would actually show reversal of their impairments. Like the mice would forget how to go through their mazes, and they'd forget how to do their swims and find the little like benches in the pools of water. These horrible, stressful tests for these animals.
Yeah, I bet.
But they would they would forget how to get out of their mazes and forget how to find the platform, so they weren't, treading water forever. And after being administered CBD, they would regain their skills to find their way out of the mazes and to be able to swim to their little like rest points and things. So amazing reversals. And then when they sacrificed them and looked at their brains on autopsy, they would show fewer inflammatory markers. They'd show lower levels of interleukin 6 and all the other pro-inflammatory markers in their brains, and some degree of clearing. And we know that cannabis medicine turns down something called microglial, which are these special white blood cells of the brain that pick up debris. They try to clear out debris, but they also and differentially, they will respond to inflammation. And if there's too much inflammation, then more neurons die as a part of that whole process. And so more dead neurons is not a good thing when you're getting older.
So what could because that's one of the things that we hear from consumers all the time, and we had some questions a while back that we're asking. So what really is CBD doing for my aunt who's got Alzheimer's or dementia?
Yep.
Is CBD really helping her or not helping her?
Yes.
Or, because those are the questions they have for us, wanting to know how CBD is really going to help them at all. Because we have about 15 consumers right now who are buying for themselves or for a family member that are suffering from Alzheimer's and dementia.
And I presume that they're seeing some improvements, or are they just hoping?
They
okay.
are.
So I think what people experience is really profound, and then in all trials, including just anything that you study, there's a significantly positive placebo effect with every single medication. There's a placebo effect for pain, for mood, for neurologic disorders. That exists. And so whether or not doctors would say, oh, that's a placebo effect, we haven't proven that it's really doing any of that. The same applies to every single drug that's ever made it out of the phase 3 trials. But with that said, if they're noticing improvement, then that's important to me, and that's significant. And as long as your loved one or you are getting benefit, then I'm happy with that. But at the molecular level, the CBD is decreasing microglial activation. It's increasing the migration of cells that are coming in to help clear out the debris and remove the neurofibrillary tangles and the plaques that are building up in the brain. It's turning down the inflammatory process and all the inflammatory cytokines, IL-6, IL-2, that are causing this constant release of calcium into the brain and all these negative effects at the level of the cells, where when there's that much damage, the cells are programmed to die. And it can turn off that process, decrease the inflammation. It acts, obviously, we know, at the level of anxiety. We've talked about that. I can feel like people are probably sick of hearing me talk about anxiety and CBD. But
it really does.
But it does. It acts at the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex. So not only is it acting at the site of the damage, but it's affecting the secondary symptoms, right? If I don't know where I am and I'm confused in the middle of the night, and which is what happens with them. They sundown. They don't sleep, and we know that CBD helps to restore better sleep patterns. They get anxious, they start to wander around, they fall, they'll leave the house, and then you have lost elderly people that are completely confused, don't know who they are, and it helps to calm down the anxiety. So if you could even help them feel less anxious and sleep through the night, you've already improved the family's quality of life, because now they don't have to like chain the doors and put bells on their family members so that they hear them if they get up and fall.
And I've heard that so far from about 5 of our consumers who are treating their family members, who are saying that at sundowning, the aggression is not there like it was before. Because the aggression was, for some of them, was pretty severe.
Horrible.
To the point where, they didn't remember who they were. They were becoming extremely combative because they wanted them out of their house, and trying to force them out of their house because they were like, I had no idea you were my son or my daughter or my husband or my wife. Of course, it's overwhelming for all the family members, of course. But for that individual, like you said, going through that process and for that moment, not knowing who the hell these people are in your house, you'd feel like somebody's broken into your house and taken over.
You're terrified, right? You're anxious and you're not going to rest. And I have so many patients who care for their parents with Alzheimer's, and that's kind of the progression. They'll say that they just cuss them out and are super mean. And I mean, I haven't had to experience that firsthand with a family member yet, but the conflict, like to love somebody that much, somebody that raised you, that gave birth to you, that cares for you, and to have them turn into somebody who is just hateful and mean, and that's your responsibility, and so overwhelming. So probably everybody in the house benefit from some CBD, but yes, it's helping primarily based on all the bench work and the studies, and the in vitro work. It's helping to undo and to even maybe in some of these my studies reverse some of the plaquing and the damage, but it's also helping with the secondary symptoms that we know it works on, the anxiety, the sleep, those things too. So potentially have a really profound impact. And then again, when you compare it to what are used to treat the dementias like memantine and the acetylcholinesterase inhibitors, so many side effects from those medications, and they don't help with the dementia, they just help kind of the secondary symptoms of those, like they won't eat, they're nauseated all the time, their GI tracts are disrupted, and none of them help to slow the progression. So now you're just kind of trying to sedate people into not wandering around and stuff like that, and it's not very effective. So we said that it helps to decrease the accumulation of the abnormal proteins, helps to decrease the inflammation, and it acts at the level of oxidative stress, which is a very big deal in the formation of these conditions.
So, and for those consumers that are kind of wondering, is this really going to help my family? Of course, we really hope it does. We've seen some really great success so far with the consumers that we're selling to right now. Like I said, we've seen a decrease in their anxiety and their aggression. Some of them are just saying that their family is just kind of easier to be around. Because they're not as anxious, like Dr. Wendy was talking about. They just have that well-balanced feeling for the moment, even if they don't remember who they are. It's not consuming them. Which it's just that in itself can just be enough to kind of get you through the day sometimes.
Absolutely.
But that's great.
So, and then we were going to just touch on Parkinson's disease and multiple sclerosis. And so those are two of the low-hanging fruit in cannabis medicine terms. Like, those are some of the conditions that are accepted in every single state where cannabis medicine is legal and available. Those conditions, and they've got the National Academy of Science, Engineering, and Medicine put their review paper out in 2017, and those conditions clearly, incontrovertible evidence that it decreases the spasticity and the rigidity in patients who suffer from spastic and rigid conditions. And so those videos just abound on the internet. If you look for those patients, Parkinson's disease, who you'll give them just a nice dropper full or two of CBD oil, or some people like to use vape pens, which I think is a really nice mechanism, mode of delivery, because you get such almost instant relief within just 7-8 minutes. The effects kick in. You're not hitting the liver, so you don't have to worry about drug interactions, and you get an instant relief, and you can watch them go from the case of Parkinson's, from the shaking and the rigidity, if they're in a more advanced stage, to a softer, calmer, less of the twitching and the spastic movements. And the MS patients also notice that it relieves their fatigue. So their muscle pain, right? When you're in constant pain, that's very draining and exhausting for your body to live with. And so you feel that secondary effect of all of that.
And the brain fog, too, that they feel a lot of times.
Yes.
You know, a lot of people don't understand what it's like. I don't know what it's like, of course, to feel that brain fog like they do.
I do.
But I do have periods where sometimes I just can't get all this information out of my head, and it's overwhelming.
Right.
So, and they live that way.
Yeah, they live that way all the time. And so what CBD oil and cannabis can do for patients with Parkinson's and MS, when I talk about like autism and Alzheimer's and dementia, it's all based on bench work and limited studies that exist. But with MS and Parkinson's, it's not even questionable. And several of the FDA-approved medications that have isolated components and are being used are for these conditions. So even the FDA, so anybody who is a skeptic, you really don't have very much ground to argue against its efficacy because those drugs are approved in this country and in other countries for those conditions.
Absolutely.
So we know that it relaxes muscle movements, and we know that it decreases the rigidity and where it acts at the substantia nigra in the brain. Very, very safe, very, very beneficial. Just like everything, it's not 100% effective, but there are studies showing.
But so far, we've had great success with a lot of our Parkinson's patients that we've been selling to because we've seen it just when they come in and dose here at the retail shop before they leave. The tremors have subsided. So that just in itself is great to see them walk out of here. Yeah. A totally different person.
I love that. Seeing that. That is the stuff that I really kind of geek out about watching it. And then we sometimes like to dive in and watch about what's happening at the level of the neurotransmitters. Some of us like that. Some people don't. But just to be able to have that kind of impact on those patients' lives, and if you want to call that a placebo effect, that's fine. You call it whatever you like, as long as those people have quality of
they do have a quality of life.
Quality of life restoration.
And then I'm getting all kinds of comments, and we need to wrap it up. So,
okay.
But guys, it's been great talking to you. We missed talking to you. We missed you last week. But just a reminder, we actually have Bernie Market Days coming up again in Bernie. Great show that we've been attending for the past 3 or 4 months now. And it's just a great opportunity to do it on Main Street in the main plaza there. You see individuals with all kinds of different shops, tents set up, and people selling all kinds of cool stuff. And,
fun things.
And Dr. Wendy's there with us.
Yeah, and it's a lot of fun, and the weather's going to be
Dr.
beautiful.
Wendy go out and shop.
We get to
bring all
shop.
Kinds of stuff
we get
back to our tent, which is awesome.
Eat stick meat,
It's a whole lot of fun. We want you to join us. It's going to be on the 14th and 15th of November. We'll be out there.
Oh, and it should be beautiful weather there then again, too. Yeah, we had a couple of nice days.
Great days. So we look forward to seeing you out there. And then, Stephen, do we have a winner for tonight? I know usually Mike Anthony does that for us, but I know we saw quite a few new people on here this evening.
Good.
Sean Jordan, he actually had some good questions there. So,
I didn't see
Sean,
the questions.
We're gonna award you our winning cream tonight.
Yay!
500 milligram arnica cream that we were talking about earlier tonight. You'll be our winner for this evening. We'll get with you and we'll send you an instant message to get your contact information. Thanks for joining us this evening, guys. It's so
Thank
great
you all
to
for
talk to
tuning
you
in.
as always.
Yeah.
I know sometimes I apologize if we get too much into this.
I know we get
sometimes
all
I feel like we're
excited
talking to
and
ourselves as
yeah.
opposed to other people. So we got to start making sure that we kind of make it easier for people to understand, not talk up here.
I'll make a
bring it
mental
down.
note. Yeah.
Yes, but it's great to see you guys. If even for the last 40-45 minutes. We'll see you again in 2 weeks.
Thank you for tuning in. We really appreciate your support. Share with all of your friends. You never know who you can help.
Thanks. Have a good week.
Bye.
Bye-bye.